Coach, West Virginia hasn't allowed a blocked punt this season. What have you seen from their unit in terms of, I guess, just how they're preventing that, or is it a matter of just teams aren't going for it against them?
I think they're pretty sound. Number one, usually when you're going after punts, there's something that you think you can get. They do a good job. They're well coached. They're pretty sound. They get the ball off pretty fast, and they actually cover really well. Number 20, I can't think of his name, but he's really good. So we gotta come up with some answers for their guys.
I guess on that, how do you game plan a team that does get the ball out that quick? Do you play a little bit more conservative where you're not attacking as often, or do you
I
play
don't
the same?
think that I'm not going to change. I mean, we're going to be aggressive somehow, some way. Just don't know where that's going to be at. But I'm going to come after a kick here or there, and then and the game has something to do with it. The type of game it is going to be a big part of what exactly we do. So.
I would assume you put your fastest guys out there, but in a game like this where they are getting it, do you change personnel at all?
No, I pretty much the same guys have been doing it all year. Be the same ones we use.
What's the biggest point of emphasis at this point in the season when you've kind of already played so many games, but there's still little things?
I've been the same since day one. I just tell our guys, go out there and play as hard as you can. When we turn the film on, we want to make sure that we played harder than the other team. On special teams, well, it's our whole team. I think because I get the pleasure of getting to talk to the whole team. With special teams, we got everybody in there, so we just got to go out there and play harder than them. That's my goal. There's no secret to that. I think we've done that all year. I think we've played as hard as we can, and we're going to try to do that again this week.
Coach, you've been here a while, and there's a lot more at stake. Towards the end of the season this year, just what's it been like seeing how this team has just grown over the season, where they're at right now?
I think I knew last spring that we were gonna, it was a special group just because of the maturity of them and the way they practice. I guess you could say that's where I'm old school. I think you still got to practice. I think you still got to hit, and you still got to have, it's still got to be about the team. And I think Coach McGuire's doing a good job with that. That hasn't changed since all these guys got here from the spring. I think we've kind of I knew that last spring the way these guys were, like I said, just the way that they hung out around each other and the way they listened to their coaches and then the way they practiced, I could tell it was going to be a special group.
You're kind of used to playing, or in your career in the past in high school, you're used to playing important games late in November. It kind of feel right to you to be playing big games late in November?
Oh, yeah. I think that was always, when you're a high school coach, you always said you want to be practicing on Thanksgiving. It's just kids, it was just different. Number one, they didn't have to go to school that week probably, so they were excited about that. But then they knew that there was something at stake. You're probably playing the third round of the playoffs, so you're pretty much into it. It's no different now. It's great being at a place where you finally, you're playing for games that mean something. In the past, we were always fighting to get in, have our sixth or seventh or eighth, whatever it was. That was always important. I mean, but now, you're obviously playing for something a lot bigger than that. But, like I told our guys, everyone's like, well, this is a big game. This is a big game. What game hadn't been big for us? In this day in college football, you lose 2 games, you're pretty much out. So every game's been big. It's for me this whole year. I don't treat anything different, to be honest with you. So, but yeah, this time of year is obviously fun. But we've played great teams and all year, so this team ain't gonna be no different. We're gonna go out there and play just like we played the first of the year. I think.
And you talked about his progression from the time he got here to where he is now. But regarding Stone Harrington, what did you think? For him to go from basically alternating kicker to being semifinalist for the Lou Groza.
Yeah, well, you probably really need to say it right, Don. For him almost being out of here. I tried to run Stone off. I think I told you guys that. I just didn't think Stone, he hung in there in spite of my coaching. His first 2 years, man, he struggled. And I don't know that, I was like, besides being able to kick a ball, because even when he kicked, kickoffs, he was going to kick the second or third one out of bounds. So it wasn't like, that kid, man, I don't know what he found, but whatever he did, I think every kicker in the country needs to call Stone and figure out what he did, because between his third and the second, third year, he definitely made a change. And man, I'm so proud of that kid, because he got it from me daily and coach, everybody. But man, I'm so proud of him, and to be in the, talk with the Groza Award. Hats off to that kid, because he's helped us win some games, and like I said, he's turned into a big time weapon.
Well, and he's kind of seemed to indicate that's been as much more of a mental thing
Yeah.
maybe than anything else. Is that
100%. I think because he had the ability. That's kind of why I took him, because I saw him. He was a backup kicker at Collegeville Heritage. He was a kickoff guy doing some onside stuff and extra points. But I just saw the kid that he had some range and he had a big leg. He just didn't know what to do with it. So, and like I said, kudos to that kid for, like you said, mentally. That's what kicking is. You've got to stay ahead of the game, sharp. You got to know that you're the best in the business, and you got to go out there to win every game, because that's what it comes down to. And I think he changed his approach of just being serious every day and realizing that he could be a weapon, more so than just kickoffs, because he is a weapon on kickoffs as well. But on field goals and extra points, I shouldn't say extra points because he had missed one. You should never miss an extra point at this level. But I'm proud of the kid.
so? You said that you quote tried to run him off.
Yeah.
He was close to being.
He was close to being removed and cut, and me bringing somebody else in, just because he just never had the mindset that you have to have in college football. Going from Trey Wolf and Gino to Reese, those guys, they were geared in every game, and Stone just didn't have that. He just went out there and tried to kick the ball as hard as he could. And like I said, his averages were in the 40s and 50s for his first 2 years. And then you saw last year he kind of started making a change, and then last spring he totally dialed into wanting to be the kicker here. And, he won the job, and that's kind of like I said, that was all about him. So I'm proud of him for that.
You mentioned with Stone that it kind of just happened more or less, and you don't really know, but was it a slow progression of seeing him change that mental, or was it truly like he walked in the building the next day and it was just a
No,
different
I think
person?
it was a slow. I think it started last off season, when he really started getting serious in the weight room, and then, he went to some camps, went and worked out, and I think he started, like I said, start seeing a sports psychologist and realizing that he really had something, but he had to dial it in, mentally, that what you have to do as a kicker. I mean, it's just there is some physical ability, obviously, but you have to mentally be there that nothing's going to bother you. And trust me, we make it where it's going to bother you here. We put him in situations that it's going to stress him out, and he's just got to figure it out. So proud of him for that.
You talk about how mental that position is. In his first years, did you see him more or less like standing by himself at times? I mean, it's obviously more evident to us now because he's in the limelight that we see everybody he's hanging out with. He's getting praise from his teammates. But
No,
prior
he
to
just
that-
was. I think he was just young and immature. Honestly, I mean, everything was. If he missed a kick, if he missed 5 kicks in a row, he was going to laugh it off. Where me, you miss 5 kicks in a row, that's the end of the road. He was just, everything was fun and games, and he wasn't ever serious. But like I said, he figured it out, and I'm glad he did for our sake.
Anything else for KP before we let him go?
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great Thanksgiving.